I knew I had crossed a line the second I saw my name on the page. I was 24 when I started helping Elena with the repairs around her house. She was 47, recently divorced, and lived 3 doors down from my apartment. She had a quiet way about her, never asking for much, always thanking me twice, as if accepting help made her uncomfortable. That afternoon, rain tapped against the kitchen window while I fixed a loose cabinet hinge. Elena was upstairs looking for a box of old photographs. "Tea," she called. "Sure." I heard her footsteps disappear down the hallway. Then I noticed the diary. It was sitting beneath a stack of bills on the counter, its worn brown cover slightly open. I didn't plan to touch it. I swear I didn't. But a loose photograph slipped from between the pages and landed near my hand. I picked it up. Elena was younger in the picture. She was standing beside a man whose face had been torn away from the photograph. I should have put everything back. Instead, I opened the diary. The first few pages were ordinary grocery lists, memories, little complaints about work. Then I reached an entry that made my stomach tighten. She had written about feeling invisible in her own life. About wishing someone would notice the things she never said aloud. I turned another page. And there it was. A description of me. Not my name at first. Just details, the way I knocked twice before entering, how I always left my shoes by the door, how I looked at her and then quickly looked away. My hands went cold. Before I could read another sentence, I heard footsteps behind me. "Elena!" She stopped. Her eyes went from the diary to my face. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she quietly asked, "How much did you read?" I couldn't answer. She stepped closer, reached for the diary, and our fingers touched. Neither of us pulled away. Elena pulled the diary against her chest like I had taken something much more important than paper. "I'm sorry," I said. She looked down. "You should be." I nodded. "I know." That was the strange part. She didn't yell. She didn't demand that I leave. She just stood there in the kitchen, barefoot, one hand gripping the diary, while rainwater slid down the window behind her. I only read a few pages. Her eyes lifted. "Which ones?" I hesitated. "The ones about me." Her lips parted slightly. For the first time since I'd known her, Elena looked embarrassed. "I didn't mean for you to see those." I figured. She gave a small, humorless laugh. "Then you know more about me than most people do." I wanted to tell her I hadn't wanted to know. That wasn't entirely true. The truth was, I'd noticed her long before that diary. The way she stood at her kitchen window when she thought nobody was watching. The way she stopped herself from smiling sometimes. The way she always made enough dinner for 2 and then pretended she'd cooked too much. "You wrote that you felt invisible," I said quietly. Her fingers tightened around the diary. "My husband used to tell me I was difficult to love." Something inside me shifted. He was wrong. She looked at me. I immediately wished I'd kept quiet. "You don't know that." "I know enough." The silence afterward felt different. She walked toward the counter and placed the diary down. My marriage ended 8 months ago, she said. I still don't know who I'm supposed to be without it. I didn't know what to say. So I stayed. Maybe that was the first mistake. Or maybe it wasn't. Elena picked up my abandoned screwdriver and turned it between her fingers. You were going to fix the cabinet. Yeah. You can finish tomorrow. I looked at her. She stepped closer and touched my arm. Stay tonight. Her voice dropped. Just for a little while. And suddenly, I couldn't remember why leaving had ever seemed like the safer choice. I stayed. We sat at opposite ends of Elena's kitchen table, pretending the conversation was normal. It wasn't. She told me about the little things she had stopped doing during her marriage, playing music while cooking, buying flowers, leaving the curtains open at night. I listened without interrupting. Then she asked, "Why do you keep looking at me like that?" I looked down at my coffee. Like what? Like you're trying to remember something. I swallowed. Maybe I am. Maybe I am. She smiled faintly. That's not an answer. No. The word came out quieter than I intended. She reached across the table for her cup at the same moment I did. Our fingers touched. Neither of us moved. Her eyes stayed on mine. For one reckless second, I thought she might lean closer. Instead, she pulled her hand back. I shouldn't have written those things about you, she whispered. Why? Because they weren't supposed to become real. My chest tightened. What things? She looked toward the window. The things I noticed. Before I could ask what she meant, her phone rang. She flinched. The screen showed a name I didn't recognize. She answered reluctantly. Hello? Her expression changed almost immediately. No. Tonight isn't a good time. A pause. I said no. She ended the call and placed the phone face down. Who was that? My sister. She rubbed her forehead. She thinks I shouldn't be alone right now. You aren't alone. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Elena looked at me. Neither of us smiled. I stood, suddenly aware of how close we were. I should go. She didn't move. Maybe. I reached for my jacket. Then she quietly said, "Do you really want to?" I turned. She was standing behind me, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her presence. Her hand lightly caught my sleeve. And for the first time, I didn't look away. I should have left. Instead, I turned around. Elena's hand was still resting against my sleeve. You keep telling yourself you're leaving, she said softly. You haven't moved. I don't know what I'm doing. Neither do I. She let go of my sleeve, but neither of us stepped back. I could hear the rain against the windows. You read something you weren't supposed to read, she said. Now you think you understand me. I don't. Then why are you still here? I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. She looked away first. I spent years being careful, she whispered. Careful about what I said. What I wanted. Who I disappointed. Her voice cracked slightly. I don't want to spend the rest of my life doing that. I stared at her. You deserve someone who isn't afraid to choose you. Her eyes returned to mine. And would you? The question landed harder than anything else she had said. I looked down. You're 47. I know. I'm 24. I know that too. You're still getting over your marriage. Her jaw tightened. And you're still trying to convince yourself that makes this impossible. I didn't answer. She stepped closer. Not enough to touch me. Enough to make breathing feel difficult. I don't need you to fix my life, she said. I don't need a younger man to make me feel desirable. That's not why I'm here. Then why are you? I finally looked directly at her. Because when I'm with you, I don't feel like I'm pretending. Her expression changed. For a moment, she looked almost frightened by how much that meant. Then she whispered, "That's exactly what scares me." The room went completely still. I could have walked away. She could have asked me to. Neither of us did. Elena's eyes dropped briefly to my mouth before returning to my eyes. Then she asked, barely above a whisper, "If you stay, are you prepared for what happens next?" I don't know, I said. Elena closed her eyes for a moment, as if she had expected a different answer. Then her phone buzzed on the counter. She looked at it. Whatever warmth had been in her face disappeared. "What is it?" I asked. She turned the screen toward me. It was a message from her ex-husband. "We need to talk. About the house. And about him, ****. My stomach dropped. About me? Elena didn't answer. Another message appeared. "I know you've been seeing the young man from 3 doors down ****. She immediately locked the phone. "He's been watching you?" "He watches everything." She sat down, suddenly looking exhausted. I pulled out the chair opposite her. "What did you tell him?" "Nothing." "Then how does he know?" She stared at the table. "He came by last week. And he saw you fixing the cabinet. That shouldn't have mattered. But somehow it did." Then Elena reached for the diary. "I need to tell you something else." She opened it to the page I had seen. I recognized my description. But underneath it was a date. Almost a year before we'd ever spoken. I frowned. "Elena. I saw you before you knew me." I looked up. She gave a nervous breath. "You were carrying groceries for that old woman across the street. You dropped a bag. Oranges rolled everywhere." I remembered. "That's when?" She nodded. "I saw you laughing while you picked them up. You didn't know anyone was watching." Her fingers trembled against the page. "I wrote about you that night." I couldn't speak. "You weren't supposed to become part of my life," she said. "You were just a stranger who reminded me that kindness still existed." The room seemed smaller. "So why didn't you tell me?" "Because after my marriage ended, I was ashamed of how much I wanted something different. She closed the diary. I wasn't writing about you because I expected you to love me. Her eyes lifted. I was writing because I was already starting to. I felt my breath catch. Then headlights swept across the kitchen window. A car had stopped outside. Elena looked toward the glass. Her face went pale. My husband is here. Elena didn't move. Neither did I. The headlights disappeared as the car rolled toward the curb. He knows, she whispered. Maybe. She shook her head. You don't understand. He'll make this ugly. She shook her head. You don't understand. He'll make this ugly. I looked at her. Then let him. Her eyes filled, but she quickly wiped them with the back of her hand. I don't want you dragged into my mess. You're not dragging me. You don't know what you're saying. I do. She stared at me for a long moment. Then there was a knock at the door. 3 slow knocks. Elena's shoulders tightened. I reached for her hand. She looked down at our fingers. Don't, she whispered. I loosened my grip. Sorry. She caught my hand again. No. I meant don't let go. That nearly broke me. She opened the door only a few inches. Her ex-husband stood outside, angry and soaked from the rain. Elena, we need to talk. There is nothing left to talk about. His eyes moved past her and found me. For a second, nobody spoke. Then he laughed bitterly. So that's why. Elena stepped forward. No. This has nothing to do with you anymore. He looked at her as if he didn't recognize her. Maybe that was the point. After he finally left, Elena closed the door and leaned against it. I was terrified, she admitted. I know. I thought if I chose you, everyone would think I'd lost my mind. I stepped closer. Maybe they will. She laughed through a tear. That isn't very reassuring. I know. For once, neither of us tried to make the moment sound beautiful. It was messy, complicated, and real. I don't know where this goes, she said. Neither do I. You're 24. And you're 47. She smiled faintly. That's still a problem. Probably. She looked at me. But you're not leaving? I shook my head. No. Her fingers found mine. This time, neither of us pulled away. And when she rested her forehead against mine, I realized I had spent weeks afraid of crossing a line. Maybe the real question was whether we were brave enough to draw a new one. I used to think reading Elena's diary was the moment everything went wrong. Now I think it was the moment everything became impossible to hide. After that night, I gave her space. Not because I wanted to disappear, but because I finally understood that loving someone didn't mean rushing them into a decision. Elena handled the divorce herself. She changed the locks, packed away the photographs, and slowly made the house feel like hers again. 3 months later, she asked me to come over. The kitchen looked different. The broken cabinet was fixed. New curtains hung by the window. There were flowers on the table. You're early, she said. You're nervous. She smiled. Maybe. I noticed the diary sitting on a shelf. She followed my eyes. I don't write about you anymore. My stomach dropped. Then she laughed. Not because I don't think about you. I smiled. She walked closer. I realized something, she said. I spent years writing down what I couldn't say. I don't want to do that anymore. So say it. She took a breath. I love you. No dramatic music. No perfect speech. Just 4 words from a woman who had spent years being afraid of what wanting something might cost her. I reached for her hand. I love you too. She squeezed my fingers. Even though this is complicated? Especially because it is. We didn't pretend the age difference would disappear. We didn't pretend everyone would understand. We simply decided that other people's opinions didn't get to make our choices for us. A year later, the diary was still on her shelf. Untouched. Not because we were hiding anything. Because we finally talked. Looking back, I wish I had never read those pages. Not because I regretted loving Elena. Because she deserved to tell me her story herself. Sometimes the person you're afraid to choose is the person who finally makes you feel chosen. And sometimes love doesn't arrive at the right time. It arrives when 2 imperfect people finally decide to stop running from it. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? ****